The Thinking Tackle podcast.
It's not a good weight for me, I'm quite tall, but really I should weigh around 14 stone. And so I started having a little bit of a go at dieting. I weren't doing any running or anything, but just eating clean and watching how much I drunk, because that was the main trouble for me, always drinking 3 or 4 times a week, a few cans of beer, and then takeaways, all that sort of caper, like just convenient food, and not really thinking about what I'm eating, just eating as and when I can get hold of something. And it's not a good way to be. So yeah, around February, started dieting a little bit, and then when I was doing it sort of 3 times a week in between fishing, so I was like doing some press-ups and some pull-ups in the garage, and then obviously lockdown came on and just started doing a bit more, started exercising every day when the kids were having a nap, just an hour, not going mad at it or anything, but eating more or less like a monk 6 days a week, and on one, not strictly 7 days a week, but like one day a week roughly, I would have a takeaway and half a dozen beers just to make myself feel sane. It's all getting a bit too stressful at home. We're all under each other's feet, especially for someone like me who lives outside for vast majority of the time. Just being in that environment with screaming kids and no escape. There were times when I had to go in the van to the co-op and get 6 beers and have a little bit of meat.
Calm down a little bit. Yeah.
You wake up in the morning, you put on 4 pounds, but it doesn't matter. It was just like you had to do it.
But it's a drink, though, isn't it? I mean, you can put so much weight on from just that. I mean, you just to take that out of the equation a bit, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah. It's always been a thing for me. I love to drink beer, and it's
moderation, mate, though, isn't it?
I've never had moderation. Moderation for me is 6 or 7 pints, which that's a big drink. But yeah, I've been.
Do you feel better for exercising though and having a bit of a routine every day?
Yeah, I do feel a lot better. Like climbing trees, I thought I was past. I thought I was well past climbing trees, but now I can scoot up a tree like I was 20. It
makes a difference.
Yeah, it's like when I started doing pull-ups in the garage at 16 stone, I could do 1. And if you think that was sort of February time, and now where are we, nearly June, I could do 10. So I'm 10 times better than I was, and I weigh less.
How many press-ups do you do?
I can do 50 in one
That's
sitting.
good.
Yeah.
That's good. Do you just do a load of press-ups in one go, or do you, what I was doing like sort of 15 press-ups in a set and doing 4 sets, doing that for a week.
Sorry, you can do a press-up, can you?
Yeah.
Don't sound so surprised, Tony.
I am shocked. I'd like to see it on
it's
camera.
It's surprising how many can you do then?
What?
How many can you do?
I could do, when I was training with Dad, we did a competition which he...
Yeah, go on. So how many can you do, Tony?
I'll probably do 40 in a hit. Right. I'm not going to match Darrell's 50.
Darrell, after this, we'll have a competition, all right?
I've just done them before I come in here. I'm naked.
No, just me and him. You can referee, all right? Yeah? You reckon you're going to win, Tobe?
Oh, yeah.
I do 100 a day. Yeah. That's what I've been doing.
I'll tell you what, we'll put it out there, beginning of the show. If everyone wants to see it, maybe we'll put something on our Instagram page.
And we'll do it afterwards.
Yeah.
We will do. I'm looking forward to this. I'm curious. I've been doing a bit of yoga. So so the press-up thing anyways, yeah, so you're doing like sets of 15 one week and then sets of 18 the next week. And you do get fucking strong doing that. You know, and you just build it up. And like I say, before you know it, you could do like 50, 60 press-ups. So
you get to like little plateaus with it, and you're trying to break those plateaus. Yeah. Like with the pull-ups, I was stuck on 6 for a while, and that was when I was only doing them once a week. And I had a sort of a message conflab with Bobby Zamora. We were talking fishing and pull-ups, and he said do it more than once a week. And as soon as I started doing them more than once a week, the numbers started going up. I've sort of got stuck at 10 now. I can't get past 10, but I'll have to change it up again.
It creeps up on you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like you don't realise how much stronger you're getting, but you get really strong quickly.
Yeah.
Anyway, Darrell Peck, welcome to the podcast. Back again. Yeah, feel comfortable with this?
Yeah, I'm more comfortable on my own than I was when there was all 4 of us here for the...
I think Simon's the same as well.
Yeah, it's just you don't know when it's your turn to talk and stuff, and it's all like bouncing around. It's all a bit much, but I feel more confident on my own.
Yeah, no. Well, the first one we done was great. Yeah, the masterclass one was that was tough.
Yeah, on you.
God, and he's hiding behind there. So he's a
famous line that welcome to masterclass.
Welcome to the what was it? Welcome to the podcast, wasn't it? Yeah. But no, it's good to have you back anyway.
Thank you.
So obviously, what have you been doing over lockdown and stuff?
other than sort of training at home, I had, the first few days are all a bit up in the air, aren't they? You don't know what to do with yourself. And then you think, right, I'm going to have to use this time productively. And I'd been trying to write my book over winter and then got distracted with Welly. So the first, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks, I was really productive with my writing. And then...
So how far into it are you now then?
I think I've got about 12 of 20 chapters written. They still need a little bit of polishing. But yeah, I was productive. I got a few chapters done during the beginning of lockdown, and my missus was like patting me on the back like a little kid. Well done, Darrell. Keep going, Darrell. And but then I just sort of burnt out with it. It's 5 days a week in the chair. As much as I love carp fishing, I live for carp fishing. I don't live to write about it. And it starts. I'm good. I would say some people are different. I wake up in the morning and I'm at my most productive from the moment I wake up until lunchtime, and I wake up before the kids, usually sort of 6 o'clock, and I can go hard for 2.5 hours, and then I start to realise that I'm writing absolute waffle after that. After 2.5 hours, it's like.
Do you keep notes and stuff on sessions? Do you write diaries?
Well, I write a diary for Carpology,
so it's there, isn't it?
And previously for Carp World, so it is there loosely, and obviously.
So how much different is your book stuff to the articles in the magazines?
Well, more detailed, and more sort of talking about the other people that were there and that sort of stuff, and maybe some of the naughtier stuff, but obviously I have to be a little bit wary.
Is it a similar theme to the last book? From what year does it start from?
I think the first chapter is Fen Drayton, which is 2012. The first few chapters are fishing in England mainly, sort of between 2012 and 2014, and then from 2014 onwards, there's quite a lot of sort of the Belgium Lake, Orient. The German masterclass that we did, Bayswater, the Black Mirror, so there's quite a bit of European stuff in there, bit on Welly at the end. I haven't got that far yet, but
so there's a bit of a changeover, isn't there? Because getting into your European fishing more and stuff.
So that's sort of, it starts with the English sort of as I was, and then it does go more into the sort of the European stuff that I've been doing in recent time, the longer sessions. Since I've been married and kids, it suits, and with work as well. It's
you've had a kid since we've done the last podcast. You were just expecting. It was right around that time, and I think it was like a week afterwards. So you've got 3.
We've got 3 under 3. Yes, it's busy. It is busy. Like yesterday, I've been fishing.
Life gets tougher, Darrell, does it?
I've been fishing for 3 nights. So it's all calm. I've been sitting in this little quiet bay, all on my own, barely spoke to anyone. And then it gets home, and it was, the cleaners are going to be in half an hour. Take this baby, change this. And there was kids screaming everywhere. I was like, it was a shot run for the beers last night, I can tell you.
That was another excuse to have a beer last night. Then. Yeah. Is it hard being in lockdown with kids then? I mean, is that been a struggle for you?
Yeah. There's a good side of it and there's a bad side of it. I'm quite selfish and I like my own time, and it's 12 hours intensive, really. You have a break in the middle when they have a nap, but they wake up at 7 and they go to bed at 7, and it's those hours that they're awake is full on. And the mother-in-law's not been able to come round and help, so I've been there. I've not been father of the year by any stretch of the imagination, but I've been on a hand.
But I guess you've learnt to be a better father as well. I mean, if you're hands-on like that all the time.
I can change a nappy a bit quicker. Bath time's a bit quicker as well.
What about the fishing stuff then? What were the plans, going into the spring before all this happened?
Well, it's all gone a bit Pete Tong, really. Danny had wanted to film in France for 2 weeks at the back end of April on the same venue that we filmed at last year. So he wanted to go there again and get another, because he thinks we scratched the surface, really. He thinks there's a lot more big fish there. To start with, that was 14 days work that I sort of missed out on. I also missed Welly for myself. I got kicked off there at the end of March, and so I've paid $2,000 for a syndicate ticket, fished there once in the summer, a little bit through the autumn, a lot in the winter for not very much, And I was thinking, right, I've got all of May off work. I'm going to give this.
That's a lot to lose on there because it's an expensive ticket as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So I lost all of April, most of May, and so I've lost the 2 best months of the year on my £2,000 ticket. They've given me an extra month, so our ticket now runs till July, which is it's a good gesture. That's the best they can do, but you can't. I know it's in real carp angling terms, you can't replace April and May. So yeah.
And how has that affected the fishing since you've been back on there?
Well, obviously there was a WhatsApp group, and I've been in WhatsApp groups to do lakes, and you've never seen so many keen people. It's like the lockdown, everyone's there talking fishing, and it was like, when's it opening? Everyone's back and forth, and there was a draw so basically there's 50 members. And they only wanted to have 15 people on at a time, and it's usually 3 nights on, 4 nights off. But for the opener, so everyone could fish the opening week, it was 48 hours on, and you had to go into a draw to see if you could get on the opening week. And I came out fourth. So I've fourth pick of swim, and I got my second choice. We rolled up on the morning of the draw. We met at the gate. I barely slept the night before. I was so excited. It's one of those things. The day of the draw that was like on the Facebook Live, I was at home watching it in my office. I was like, yes, I'm fourth. And the next thing you know, I was in the garage, like going back and forth. And I kept finding myself grabbing some pop-ups and shaking them up. And then I was like, what was I doing over there? And I'd half do a job and then move on to something. I couldn't even pack the van. I was so excited. And so I got there the next day on the gate. And as soon as we were allowed into the fishery, walked down and had a little look out, and I saw 2 fish jump out by the island in a swim called Hole in the Bush, and I thought, that's absolutely perfect. Not only have I seen some, but that's sort of the middle of the lake and a very likely area they'll get.
Put a map up, Tobe, of Wellington Park. Have you got a picture there? Just so the viewers can see it, get some idea of the lake.
I'd seen these 2 fish jump out by the island, and I'm thinking once the pressure comes on that they'll end up out there. So I put 2 rigs out as soon as I could quickly to the island. I've got it wrapped up from a previous session, and then sort of now. 2 hours sort of so out to that island in the middle, sort of tight into that cove, and after 2 hours of not catching anything, I don't know why I decided to do it, but I put 35 big spoms out there. I thought, well, I can't move. Every swim on the lake's taken. No one's going home. I thought, I don't want to fish singles for 48 hours. I'll leave me rods out. I put them out, spommed over the top, and I thought, if nothing happens, I'll just leave them, and hopefully something will find it. But nothing happens. There was very few fish. I think there was 1 come out of the little lake, 1 come out of up and over, and 2 come out of the snags, and 1 out of Laurie's mate. So it was 4 fish come out of Bramble Bay, 1 out of the little lake, and that was it in 48 hours. So it's pretty slow, really, really slow. And it's one of that typical lots of hype, and then and just like I remember driving home thinking, all that excitement, but it was like June the 16th. It was like super exciting, and sort of went home with my tail between my legs. And then after that, I had to go filming with Danny to one of the new embryo lakes, and so I went back to Welly this week, and I got there on a Sunday. It was really quiet. There was I think 4 cars in the car park and 2 bailiffs on, so there's 6 people on, but 6 people on ain't bad, and I could have had the little lake. The guys in there were packing up, and I was umming and ahhing about just leaving my barrow behind them and going in there, because the little lake's almost a dead cert. And I was like, I saw something in Bramble Bay, and because of my first session there was fish caught in Bramble Bay, I went into up and over, and I blanked overnight, didn't see any fish, reeled in at 10 to 9 in the morning, walked round to the little lake, climbed up a tree. Like there's 3 swims in the little lake, room for sort of 2 anglers. Someone was in the main swim, and I climbed up a tree at the far end of the little lake, looked into the tree, and there was quite a few fish there, like quite a few, not big ones, but quite a few there. And I was just about to go and ask mate if he'd mind if I dropped in at the end of the bay, and before I had time to climb out the tree, a spom landed about a rod length away from me. I think he was like marking his territory a little bit, right. So I went back to me swim in the up and over. I was a bit like tail between the legs, like a little bit gutted. And as I sort of stood there, I see the guy in the snag swim playing one. And it was Dean Fletcher, and he'd said to me he was just doing a quick night on his way round the previous evening. So I went round, done his pictures, stuck my barrow in behind him, and managed to catch myself a 28-pounder this week. So I'm 5 nights in Welly since lockdown for one 28-pounder, which Welly home of the 50s. It's like the high expectation that's quite been met yet.
So how are you sort of gauging your progress on there at the moment then? I mean, you know, in terms of fishing the lake, and do you think you're learning more and you're starting to figure out some stuff now?
Yeah, of course. You know, the more you go, the better you get it. You know, I fished once in the summer last year, a few times in the autumn, and a lot in the winter. And obviously, back into the winter, I caught some. But
it's getting into a groove on there, though, isn't it?
Like I was saying to you before we started the podcast, I've always not always, but in recent years, my fishing has been based around waking up early, looking hard, really hard, finding them moving, casting on them, and then kicking back for the afternoon. And because they don't really jump a lot on Welly, and you're not fishing for one single group of carp, they say there's 90-ish carp. I think it's probably more like 120 with the small commons and stuff. But they're in small pods, real small pods of 6, 7 and more, like all around the lake, in a lot of the time under the bushes and not in the open water. So I found that on shallow lakes that are quite snaggy, that fish that pug up in the trees, they're not really jumpers, and open water fishing can be very difficult. So I would say Welly, although it is a gravel pit, it's more of an estate lake. It's got that sort of shallow feel, and very sort of carp that they've been fished for hard over a long period of time, and the stock has dwindled to where it is now. But I'm starting to I understand it better. But there's a lot of good anglers on there, and it's very busy. So, you know, Sunday and a Wednesday seem to be the changeover days, and if you make the wrong choice with your swim, you can get stranded.
Right.
If you are stranded, it doesn't matter how good you think you are. You know, you can't catch what ain't there. And if you make the wrong location decision, then yeah.
Do you think the anglers on there, because it's busy and it's fairly shallow as well, they are keeping the fish moving around all the time as well?
So highly nomadic in there. They are moving around a lot, especially maybe not so in the winter. They were quite localised in the winter, but they're definitely moving around an incredible amount. They're end to end within a day. And they are getting around the lake, and you know, a lot of the members have been on there a long time, so they're very experienced, and they know that they're not necessarily looking for fish all the time. They know the swims to be in at the certain time of the year, and they don't need to look, because if you know the lake that well and the fish move so much, if you're in the right spot, on the right spots, fishing the right way, then you're going to catch. And you know, I'm learning a lot quickly, but I'm used to just seeing them jump and slinging out there. I should have been a fly fisherman.
and I guess you're not necessarily getting too many multiple hits on there if they're in smaller groups.
Some people are.
Yeah.
Some, like if you're in the right swims, you know, like there's a swim called Goose that fishes it's the entrance to the little lake.
Yeah.
So the little lake is a multiple hit swim, and so is Goose, it seems, because they're in and out. You know, you get them passing through. But any swim can produce, like I would say, a hit at Welly is 2 or 3 bites, or 3 bites. You know, you have 3, you've had a hit.
Are they in that little lake a lot of the time? I mean, do they? I mean, you imagine that they get caned in there and then they disappear for a while.
When I joined, they sort of like, I don't know if it was consciously or unconsciously, but the regulars would say, yeah, it's all smaller fish in there, It's clubbing seals in there, like, and it almost felt like the little boys' lake, you know, like anyone can catch in there. Yeah. But big uns do get caught from there, you know. Like I was, like people in there everyone in there seemed to catch every night they're in there. It seems the density of fish in there seems to be pretty high. Yeah. But the average size is smaller to the main lake, but the big ones do get caught in there.
So you think a good proportion of the lake's population are in the small lake a lot of the time?
Yeah, I think a lot of the smaller fish stay in there a lot. Yeah. Because there's a rope that goes across the front of the lily pads with an aerator on it. Sorry, and effectively that makes an out of bounds, doesn't it? Lily pads behind the rope. Of course they're in there. You know, they are in there. But yeah, in the early days, I was sort of put off by, it's a little boys' lake or it's a little fish swim, but I've seen too many 50s caught out of there to ignore it now. But even this week, I got there on the gate. I was first there on Sunday. I had choice of the lake, and I pushed my barrow away from there because I listened. They said, there's not really much jumping in here. You know, I should stop listening and just look. You know, you should go in the little lake, look yourself, and then work it out from there.
And these other swims that you think that the regulars on there have sort of, you know, learnt to expect to find fish. Is that obvious? Do you think are they obvious swims, or you know?
Well, you can break Welly down into sort of different types of swim. There's what you would call the big six, which are the 6 main open water swims. The ones that you look at and you've got big vistas like islands and open water to loads of room to fish, and they're the ones that naturally draw you, you know, or naturally draw me. I think, loads of water out here, brilliant. But as I said, it's more of an estate lake than a gravel pit, and what I've noticed from the older guard of the lake, that the swims with the more bushes and overhangs and bays where you get your own little bit of water, the more productive, you know, tend to be more consistent. You know, the open water does do fish, don't get me wrong, but it's more hit and miss. And the bays and the little lake, the snags, the up and over, you know, the arm, those sort of areas have consistently got groups of fish in. You know, like I say, there's always groups of fish around the lake, different pods and stuff, and those bays and trees, especially in warm weather, tend to have fish in. But like, to give you some stats, there's a guy called Dr. Dave on there. I know him from Conningbrook, and I know him from Essex Manor, and he's the most consistent angler on there, in my opinion. You know, he's been on there a long time. I think I can't remember, he definitely caught more than 50 last season. Like we're still going in the same season. Definitely caught more than 50. Might have been getting close to 60. I can't remember.
Did he repeat many?
I'm not sure. I've not asked him that. But what I did notice is that he's not had a single 50-pounder out of all of those fish. And he has caught one of the 50s down in weight, or maybe a couple of them. But Cobra, so he's wingman as such. He's a real nice guy, does all the cooking for the lads down the lake. Good old boy. He, I don't know how many he's caught, maybe 20. But he's had 3 50s, you know, or more. So it's like, you're looking at two different approaches. Doc likes to fish around the trees a lot, you know, like I just said, and Cobra likes to sit it out, bait and wait in the open water. And it's like, well, you go to Welly to catch the 50s, but you don't want to sit there and blank. It's like, I want to pitch, like I'm looking at what they do, and I'm thinking, I want to pitch myself somewhere
in between.
I want to be the middle guy, you know. And
you said you don't like baiting and waiting too much.
I say I don't like baiting and waiting. I don't like doing it if I don't know. My approach everywhere I fish is always the same. I fly fish, as in like I cast at what I see until I know better, and I don't know enough quite yet. I don't know. I'm not confident enough to put it out on the spot and know that in 3 days that will produce. You know, I'm not quite that confident to do that yet. But
is it a boilie water then? Still,
there's a lot of bream and tench in Welly, a lot, and every time I try to fish sort of more attractively in the winter, you know, sweet corn, little sticks, anything like that, I just got attacked by. I put fish solid bags one night and just got absolutely decimated by bream and tench. So yeah, I would say bigger baits and tiger nuts are probably better. But yeah, going back to like the pitch, when you fish opportunistically, you can catch big fish, but you will tend to catch smaller fish. When you fish bait and weight, you can catch smaller fish, but you will catch more bigger fish. You know, so what the difference between Doc and Cobra is there an evidence, and it reaffirms my thinking on fishing.
You think they're deliberately fishing like that as well?
Yeah, of course. Doc's fishing how he likes to fish, and Cobra is a bait and weight, he likes to fish like that. And just going back to, so when I fished in Belgium all those years ago, I fished very opportunistically in the summer, caught a smaller average size, and then when I went balls deep, loads of bait, sat it out for 15 days in a swim, I caught a rake of big ones, you know. And it's when you fish over lots of bait, the party starts with a few fish picking at it, and then the big greedy dogs get involved, and you will catch bigger fish bait and weight fishing, but it isn't always the best way to catch. You know, like say someone like Tom Maker at Linear, I bet his average size with accurate spotting and sort of particle fishing isn't the best way to catch big ones. You know, if someone went to Linear and fished, chod rigs or stiff hinges with a big scattering of boilies, they would never catch anywhere near what he catches, the numbers of fish, but their average size would definitely be higher, you know. And like I'm looking at what I want to do on Welly this year, and I've sort of I'm almost going to go back to when I was 20 years old. I want to get the throwing stick back out and the 20 millers. I want to go back to the car park, pull up on a gravel patch, slam down a braided hook link and scatter a load of 20 mils in the zone and fish for the big ones.
Do you think once you find something, you do pretty much stick to that then?
That's how I want to be.
You're just looking for that all the time at the moment.
Yeah, when I was a kid and we used to play computer games, I might have said this last time, I used to find a combination of passes in football game or a fighting game, combination of punches and kicks, that once I started unloading them on you, there's no coming back, you know. And that, I'm still the same. That's what I want from my fishing. And I want to have the same thing. Like, you know, some people, I'll have a pop up on that rod and a wafter on that rod and a target out on that. I want the same thing on every rod, and then all of that is out of my mind, and all of it. I want to be as lazy as possible. I'm aiming for that, you know. I'm not as lazy as possible, but I'm aiming to get there so I can.
Like you say, it's the work that gets you there in the first place. I
want to get to a point where I can kick back. I say, I work hard in the morning, get my rods out, and then I want to kick back. Because I know I'm doing it right, but at the moment I don't think I am doing it right.
And it's the amount of time you can actually spend fishing on there as well, isn't it? I mean, you're limited as well to how much time you can actually get down there. So
yeah, lockdown, man. All these people fishing midweek. Get back to work.
I know.
But like I said to you before the podcast, one of my sort of standard things when I really want to catch from a lake is I try to overwhelm it with intensity. You know, I'll do as much time as possible. I'll work as hard at it as I can looking. I can't be more intense than many people on Welly. There's loads of retired guys that can fish 3 nights a week. I'm only allowed to fish 3 nights a week. It's a very level playing field, and when I'm behind on the experience on that venue, I'm finding it, you know, I don't mind admitting, for some reason there's this misconception about Welly, because obviously back in the day I had more fish in it, and you see guys holding 50s from there and it just seems like it's one a chuck. But it's not, you know, it's really not what I envisaged, just casting chods into jumping fish and just carving up. And it couldn't be any further.
It can't be, can it?
It's not that.
You haven't got a massive stock of fish, and those fish are old as well. So,
they're dinosaurs, those big ones. They're absolutely dinosaurs.
That's not gonna happen.
You know, some of them were 40s when I was in my 20s, you know, it's like early 20s.
Do you think Welly is slowly losing that reputation? I think people now maybe are starting to come, you know, Welly is not.
I don't think I think people on the outside still think, oh, it's Welly, it's just catching loads, but it's not. You know, I'm not saying it's Conningbrook or anything, or Yateley or any stretch of the imagination. You know, Doc's catching 60 fish in a season, you know, like, so that is doable, but he's fishing 3 nights every week and he's been on there quite a few years, and he's a bloody good angler, you know. So, you know, it's all good saying, he's caught 60 in a year, it can't be that hard, but you've got to.
It's just a different set of challenges, isn't it, when you're on a water like that? I love Welly. I've said to you before this that I would love to fish there, because I like the idea of not being able to necessarily sit on the water for long periods of time, because it resets everything back again as well. So it's a proper challenge, that place. And like I say, you are fishing for older carp, and
I think I've been spoiled fishing abroad. I think that's what it is. I'm so used to doing my long sessions abroad with no other anglers in the way, and maybe I've lost my competitive edge a little bit, but obviously hopefully Welly will bring it back out. I'm sure it will do, Darrell. I'm sure it will. So you were filming in the Cotswolds? Yes, so the filming that we were supposed to do at the end of April was cancelled because we couldn't travel abroad. And we still obviously need to produce material this year that will come out next year. So it's difficult, you know. A lot of the lakes are really busy at the moment, but Danny had just acquired the lease to a lake in the Cotswold. Apparently it's 28 acres, but usually lakes are much smaller than people say they are. You know, I look at them and think, that's no way that's 70 acres, or no way it's that. This lake was 28 acres and it looked 3 times the size. I don't know why, it just felt big, had a real feel of. It's
a very different lake to most of the lakes on the water park.
Okay.
On the water park generally, those lakes are they're dug efficiently.
Yeah.
So you don't tend to find a lot of gravel bars and a lot of features.
Right.
They're quite barren lakes.
Yeah.
But that one is, I don't know, that changed the trend a little bit. I remember when I remember when it was a field, and seeing that lake getting dug, and you think sooner or later they're going to just clear everything out of there and it's going to revert back to how all the other, but it never did.
Yeah.
And it's quite broken up as well with gravel bars and islands as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's an interesting. It's quite a long lake as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that gives it sort of a big feel. There's not many areas where you can't cast across it, but it's quite long, like you say. And the Google Earth images of it are just. It's insane, the features out there. And we had the drone up at times. The water is crystal clear. Some of the fish in there are so dark. Danny caught one that was like. It was like a lump of coal. It was so black. It was purple. It was just like it was crazy.
Did you know exactly how many fish were in there? Does Dan know that?
Well, he's got some information. The story goes something along the lines of Mark Bryant slipped a few in there. I don't know how many. I think 50 is a number that someone said to me, but I don't know that exactly. And then someone had the lease on it and bought a load of fish from a match fishery. So they were like keep net fodder, being bashed up on the pole, and they weren't in tip-top condition when they went in, but some of them have grown on, and the crystal clear sort of water has turned them into what you would say keep net fodder into. They're like, whoa, like
proper trophies.
Proper trophies.
Yeah.
Like we didn't catch anything really big, to be fair. I arrived before Dan the day beforehand, and at the far end of the lake, the wind was blowing up there. I climbed up a tree, and you could have walked across them. There was a narrow bay, and the total stock is said to be someone said 120 to 150, and someone said 300. But I definitely saw the best part of 100 fish in this bay at one point, and they ranged. There was some that were around £10 up to sort of £30, maybe a little bit bigger, and we could have walked across this bay. And I didn't start fishing because the camera guys weren't all there and Danny wasn't there, and we started the following morning. And hindsight is a wonderful thing in carp fishing. We went out with our standard approach, which is helicopter rigs with pop-ups on, cast out, and I caught one straight away. But if we'd have fished zigs straight off the bat, I think we would have. It was like carp soup out there, if we wouldn't have got them in the mouths, we'd have foul hooked them. There was that many of them. But after catching a couple off the bottom, they just scattered. Conditions were really hot, really, really hot, and the fish seemed to be in small pods, a bit like welly all over the place. And I can't remember how many times I moved, but I was moving around like an absolute madman. I think I ended up with seven fish to 28.
Did you fish zigs on there?
I did. I did catch one on a zig. I think I only caught one on a zig, and I caught some in the shallow. There's on Google Earth there was a road, so I knew where this road was, and I was fishing from the base of the road and casting straight out along it. It was a bit shallow, sort of half depth. I think it was like 6 or 7 foot out there, fishing pop-ups on top of the weed, and I caught quite a few fishing on that road. And I say quite a few, but most of my 7 fishing on that road, and I caught 1 or 2 off an island in really shallow water.
Have they had any angling pressure on there?
I think for the locals, a lot of them have been fishing there.
I did hear that a few people were turning out what they want. Filming.
There's a few scorch marks from barbecues and stuff, and a couple of dudes turned up with like real, poaching kit, short rod bags.
So not serious carp anglers then.
Well, so they weren't pushing wheelbarrows, but they were sort of, they're tiny little, probably dwarves or whatever they're called, those little Nash rods in there. And we want to be bailiffs on here, and that people would message me saying, I've been on here for years. And I think Danny's really keen to keep the price down, to get members, like get the people that are fishing there back on there. He's not trying to stop the fishing on there. Just like, I think the ticket's going to be 150 quid.
When's he going to open it?
As soon as, because obviously he wants people there fishing it, protecting the fish, so it's not fenced yet. He wants to get anglers on it as soon as possible, so that if you were paying to fish there, then you'll want to protect the stock. People won't be trying to nick them, otters won't be coming in. So I think the initial plan is to get people on there at a cheap price. Well, because there's no real big fish in there yet. He's going to stock it as well. And get some bigger fish in there, but it's a long-term, embryo's a long-term plan, isn't it? The lake's fairly young, the fish are fairly young, it needs an injection of fish, and it needs some anglers and bait. He was talking, one thing he did say, he's going to allow boats on there, I think, to bait up with, because it's got lots of crayfish. But people using boats to bait up with encourages people to put more food out. We've seen that at Gigantica, if you talk to people that fish crayfish lakes, one of the go-to tactics is a big load of particle and then plastic over the top, and you don't want to be spotting for hours and hours and hours when you could just go out in the boat and just give it just pour it over the spot. I like fishing like that. I went and fished Gigantica when the rules allowed to bait from the boat. I love that. One bait up a day, cast our marker out. So let's just say it's at 30 wraps. You cast out your marker 30 wraps, go out there, put your bait out, rod length either side of the marker float and a rod length deep, come back, it took 5 minutes, come back, wind your float in and just cast 3 singles out. That's my sort of fishing. Kick back, like I say, you kick back and you're doing the do. And
that works with the crayfish as well. I guess on the water park as well, because we have got a lot of crayfish on there as well. So it's sort of a fixture of fishing on there as well. But what did the film look like, do you think? I mean, you've made a good film on there?
Oh, I hope so. It's basically displaying when you know nothing, because no one's given us any information about what's a good swim, where's a good spots. And
what was the kind of the narrative for for the show then? Did you have a kind of a story or a theme?
Find them and catch them.
Is that what it was?
That's always that's the narrative, and it's find them, catch them. How are you doing it? So find them, catch them. What you're using. That's always the narrative of Thinking Tackle. It's like find, catch them. This is what we're doing. This is what we're using. And it suits me, that stuff. When I know nothing, that's all. I fish like that a lot anyway. Like I say, like a fly fisherman, just casting pop-ups out. And if the water's clear, like crystal clear water like there, then that leans into my style of fishing as well, because single pop-up fishing is reliant on the fish seeing the bait, not just smelling it. Quite often a fish will see a single pop-up along from quite some distance before taking it. That sort of suited my...
Are you into glugging up baits and stuff like that? Do you
Yeah, I was using that new no-name goo. It smells like bumholes.
Yeah, I know.
It's disgusting, isn't it? It smells like onions. It's just, it's not a nice. It's not one of those things you, as anglers, like how many people have walked in a tackle shop, open a tub of pop-ups, go, God, they smell nice, and then we end up using them. Whereas this isn't that. This smells absolutely disgusting. But according to the lads, that have been testing it, it's been very, very productive.
The isotonic one smells a little bit better, doesn't it? But the no-name one, it's always the baits that stink, isn't it?
When I pick up bait, when I pick up a big old batch of bait and I put it in the van, it is satisfying if you can. Obviously, I've got a bulkhead in my van. It's satisfying if I can smell it in the cab. I like.
Yeah, that's going to catch them.
That's going to have them, And if I can't smell it in the cab, I'm like, it doesn't smell very much, Yeah.
What about the Cotswold Water Park in general? Is that ever an area that you've thought about fishing around there?
Not really,
There's probably more lakes in that area now than anywhere else.
It's insane, isn't it? I did hear someone caught the croc recently, which is incredible carp. Like
one of the best.
One of the best. But I've been steering away from targeting individual carp in recent years. I've been I fished for the coconut to try and catch that because it was a £50 common on my doorstep, and I fished for that black mirror because it gets caught quite frequently, and it was in a small lake and it was quite quiet. But generally, I'm picking lakes that I want to fish these days rather than picking individual carp. So that might change, but when certain carp pop up that I think, you could get that done quite quickly. I don't think I could fish 4 or 5 years on a lake these days. I don't know. I like a bit of the unknown, like looking into flicking the torch on the internet. What's that? And I get that buzz elsewhere. So
obviously, because you're filming more.
Yeah.
That's compromising a lot of your personal. I
will never be as formidable as I was in my 20s.
Right, that's what I was trying to ask you.
Because A, there's more good anglers out there, and B, I can't give that level of intensity, like all out, that I used to give. I've got a wife, I've got 3 children, and I've got work responsibilities. Whereas before, when I worked in the print, let's say for example, I worked 3 days a week, I fished 4 days a week. I worked 3 days and I had a week off every 5, and I fished 7 nights of that every single day. I used all of my annual leave for fishing, and I would go to a lake and I would just fish until it was done, and the more you're there, the more the information comes, the more you get on top. It's the guys that do it 1 day a week and are successful, like I tip my cap to that, but to consistently knockout target fish from the country's best waters, you have to be committed, and I don't think I've quite got, not that I haven't got it, but I want different things for my fishing and at different times, but I live for fishing still, you know, I live for fishing, but I don't live to catch one carp at a time. I certainly don't live to catch one carp at a time. You know, that's why I join Welly. Lots of big fish, nice lake, you know, and I'm enjoying it, but I still love Orient, and I love going on a boat, and I love going filming. I like doing lots of different fishing. But I'm not that formidable. I'm catching it, and nothing. No, I'm the favourite. That's what it's about, making yourself the favourite, and you only got to look at the top guys that are doing it. None of them are doing it on one night a week.
No,
they ain't.
So does it take a little bit of competitiveness out of it for you nowadays? Because you've got to be pretty competitive to be like that. Do you feel like as you got older, it's kind of diminished a little bit?
Yeah, because of the lakes that I'm fishing, it's not all about one carp. So it's still there. You know, do you know? I'm going to have to be a little bit more competitive at Welly. I feel, you know. I was saying to you before the podcast, like, because there's lots of guys that have been on there for a few years. They're all friends. There's a massive transmission of information between the members, and if you're out, you know, normally I just don't really say too much. I'm not going to say I'm secretive, but I just focus on looking, you know, and that is generally my style. But if I don't jump out a lot and you've got 20 guys all conversing and you're out the loop a little bit, then you're off the pace, you know. So I'm going to have to be, hiya, how you doing? You know, a little bit more like that. But
it's hard, isn't it, mate? Because it's you've got to be it's being genuine as well, isn't it?
I am who I am, you know. And
know,
how do I say this without sounding like a div? I like spending time on my own, you know, and I don't always want the big socials in my swim. You know, sometimes I'm not saying I'm antisocial, but I do enjoy the quiet hours of fishing. You know, when you wake up at dawn, and it's just you and the lake steaming, you're looking, and the intensity of it might happen. You know, I love that. And when someone's talking, that's sort of, it's cutting the atmosphere a little bit. You know, sort of.
I mean, and I think as well, you know, that solitary, you know, that it is all part of being a successful carp angler as well. That, you know, being able to have that time to be able to think for yourself and not have that interference,
uninterrupted thoughts. You know, and like I always keep my phone on silent. Anyone that will know me, they'll probably say he's really ignorant. He never answers the phone, but it's because it's always on silent, and it's because I don't like to be interrupted. I look at my phone when I want to look at it, and I call people back, but I see people like going bzz, 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 bzz. I'm just like, no. Like I'd look at the phone when I want to look at the phone. You know, it's
that's always an issue with me, right? Because I like people's company. I like talking, but there are times where it's just I really do want my own space, and people expect you to always be sociable all the time. So it works the other way as well, doesn't it? It's like you know, you kind of want it a little bit of both ways. But once people know what you're like, they expect you to be.
Yeah, I'm not antisocial. You know, I love having a few beers with the lads and a chat and that. But I also like the other side of it. You know, I do. Like when I go to France on my big trips, I go on my own. You know, sometimes my friends come and join me for a week at a time. But I like to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it without compromise. You know, when you're in a group, you're thinking about what everyone wants and what's best for everybody. Not, you know, I want to be selfish. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. You know.
Yeah, no, I can see that. We're talking about thinking tackle. You've done a film. When did you film there?
We went last. It was May. So yeah, it was
last May.
I think it was the first week, not the beginning of May, like a week into May. I'd been to France already myself. I was in France when I met Dan at en route. He overtook me on the motorway. Actually, I dropped my boat off at Gigantica.
Actually, have you got a picture there, Toe? We got a fish, haven't we? The fishing that you were doing, because you were on the way down there. Didn't you fish a water before that?
Yeah, I'd done a week at Orient, and then I'd done pretty good actually. I banked 3 or 4 nights, and then I stumbled on one carp, and it sort of snowballed from there. I caught I saw a small carp, and I blanked the first 20.
Well, we're looking at a fish now. How
nice
big's that?
57. So if you can see the sort of the reeds on the left hand side of the picture, I saw a fish around there, small one, like a small fish, and I moved, put the boat down, gone and had a little look, and it was hot, and I'd had a couple of beers, like those little French Kronenbergs that you get, and I just got my rods out in a big old rush. And the night passed and I didn't catch anything. And I woke up in the morning a little bit fuzzy, thinking, should have caught. And it was really, really, really foggy. And I went out in the boat. Because it was so foggy, for some reason, I've never noticed this before, but fog seemed to polarise the water. It was like looking, the water was so clear. I went out and I got up to this, there was a tree growing out the lake. And I pulled myself under this canopy, so my right hand rod was where I'd seen the fish. All the bait and the stuff was still there. I've come along the reeds to this tree, and I thought, I wonder why I didn't look under this tree initially. And I went under there, and you could see the stones on the bottom were all sort of disturbed. And I just as I thought, this looks like a good spot, that fish came from behind the tree, like behind the trunk, and because of the canopy of the tree, my face was like inches off the water, and he was like mid-water in a metre of water, so his face was no more than 2 foot from my face, and we both shit ourselves at the same time, and he shot off in one direction, and I was just left like, I was like, big old fat mirror. Anyway, long story short, I put my rig next to that tree that night, yellow pop-up and some sweet corn, and lo and behold, she came back, and I had 350s in 24 hours, which is, on there,
I mean, I watched that the other day, and I said to you, I think that's the best thinking tackle I've ever watched.
I can see why you think that.
Because it's the lake is 900 acres, isn't it? And it's a little bit, I think it's a cross between sort of cassine, that sort of fishing, and maybe rainbow, like I say, without the snags. But it's got that sort of a feel to the lake, and there's a big out of bounds area, and fishing the lake was difficult for different reasons as well. And you just really, really feel the anticipation and the emotions that were going through both of you, like fishing on that session, and it just looked a little bit rawer than some of the other thinking tackles.
You think we do so many different types of fishing, like it could be day ticket, we could be at linear filming, we could be at an embryo lake filming, and we are, Danny and I, big carp fishermen. We want to catch big carp, and when you're fishing on, say, day ticket lakes and stuff, that intensity, you can't fake it. Love fishing, love catching, but when you're talking 900 acre park lake in Lyon with rumours of carp to £80 and unknown stock and security guards to look after you, and you look at it on Google Earth and you see it's just absolutely insane.
You had to employ security guards to look after you.
Big Ian, he's like massive, taller than me and the size of a wardrobe. It was just, it's that intensity. I think that's why the vistas are there. The views are there, and the drone shots and that, and you're looking at it, you're all wowed. But that level of intensity, we can't fake that. That is genuine excitement. We're going on. We're taking on something that's brings it out of you. It brings out that emotion.
Yeah, definitely. And
I was going to say, how about we play the trailer? Should we show everyone?
Yeah, we can do. Yeah, we got a trailer actually, which has only just been put together.
So, yeah.
I'm a bit scared about mine's admitted. I'm a little bit out of my depth at the moment.
Really does feel big, feels massive.
Quick, no messing around. Where's the life jacket? Quick.
That is, without any shadow of a doubt, the hardest earned carp I've ever caught.
Yes! Come on!
Boom in it, and another one.
It's a bloody dolphin show.
God. Endured all the rubbish from the locals, all the rumour, all the grief, all the getting cut off, all the getting up early, all the going to bed late.
So, I mean, if it was so problematic, what made you, I mean, was it just that the prizes were just too big and potentially you could do something so different?
I don't know what the prize, but no, there's big fish there. Lakes in Lyon.
But the place had such a reputation.
It's a park lake, and you've got a lot of sort of, I don't know if the word's refugees, but
refugees.
I wouldn't say not refugees, but just there's people living rough there, and they are trying to steal anything. A guy turned up for a walk. He knew of the lake, came for a walk round, left his car in the car park, and he did fishing rods in the car and a drone in the car, and he came to see us. He talked to me for 20 minutes, went back to his car and his window was put through and his stuff was gone. Jeez. And they'd stabbed a hole in his tyre so that he couldn't give chase. So we'd heard these rumours before we got there, but it was proved, we paid for permission to come inside the gate with the cars so that we could have the cars behind the swims and the security guard, which a security guard of fishing, but so we had the cars behind the swim, but there was a guy or a man prowling on a moped, and I'm certain that he was the guy doing the robbing, or one of the guys doing the robbing, because he was probing for a weakness to look at. Obviously we had one security guard and me and Danny were fishing 800 metres apart. There's only one security guard on one team, but we were mob-handed. It's Danny and me in separate areas, but we've each got 3 cameramen with us, so there's 3 cameramen and the cars are there, we're there. We didn't give them an opportunity to. No. But if we had given an opportunity, it'd have been gone. And
obviously the fishing was day only as well on there. So was that a good thing or a bad thing in that respect, that you were on and off the lake every day?
Well, it was probably made Ian sleep better at night. Honestly, it was the most physically draining shoot that I've ever done for me. It was back to the Gite, and then up basically every morning. You wake up at 5, you drive to the lake, you have to carry your gear to the water's edge, start fishing, and generally we were reeling in at 11. So that's as it was getting dark, and it isn't. The day's not. You're not back to Gite at 11. You reel in at 11. You pack up, and quite often we were catching fish at 10 to 11, quarter to 11, 5 to 11, and then by the time you filmed them and packed up and got the gear in the car, it was quite often midnight or later by the time we were getting back to the Gite. And then I felt for the camera guys. I was in bits at that point, but they were then having to download all the data that they'd accumulated through the day, and I'd be going to bed as they're sitting downloading these files, thinking, this is graft. It's enjoyable, real exciting fishing for the unknown largely. We certainly don't know what's in there, but it was draining. 3 or 4 days in, I thought I was going to hit the wall. But
Dan was ready to go home, wasn't he, at one point?
Yeah, he was. He takes a little while to warm into sessions. He does. He definitely takes I seem to get off the mark quickly, and then he sort of once it starts happening, he sort of warms up to the situation and sort of gets involved.
It was his facial expressions and the whole thing, and I think it was Dan's emotions through that as well. That you can sort of capture that as well by seeing how you think he's really, really struggling here, and you can't imagine Danny talks about going home too often, but he was. He might have thought of it. He was never going home, but he might have thought about, what am I doing here? Yeah.
That's it.
But you said with the camera guys as well, because they were having to jump out on boats with you and film while you were hooking fish as well, and there was all this routine that you had to get into, because you were losing fish initially, weren't you, because you couldn't get out in the boat quickly enough?
No, I'm not sure if you sort of misinterpreted what was going on.
Probably.
There. But there was basically started fishing with tiger nuts and plastic corn and stuff. And in hindsight, there was these massive rub thing, and they were giving. I was fishing braid with slack clutches, and they're giving you rippers, you're getting proper takes. But I wasn't losing carp. In fact, I don't actually remember losing a carp while I was there. And to start with, the first few takes were off these rud things, and then later on, sort of changed to fishing big pop-ups and stopped feeding stupid baits and started fishing big carp tactics, and it all started coming together.
But it's just as well it was roach and red, really, wasn't it? Because because it sort of drilled you into getting out in that boat quickly and getting over the fish as well, didn't it?
So, it's weedy, a lot of the lake was weedy. and the fish were generally getting in the weed and we have to pull them out. One of the first big one that I caught, it was the whole thing, the intensity of moving in the day. We basically see some fish showing, move down onto where they were showing, and it's the second move of the day. All the gear was in the boat. It's not just me packing up, the camera guys have got to pack up all their equipment as well. We moved down to this swim, and I'd seen a fish show out towards an island, but miles short of it. It's like 300 metres away, this island, but there was a tip of the island, and I whacked out this single pop-up, full pelt-ish, like 120 yards, 130 yards on, with a 4-ounce lead and a pink pop-up. And as I remember putting it in the rest, I could see the bottom of my spool. So so much line had come off the reel, and I was so low a line, I could see the Bezier writing. And I literally had 2 rods out, and I said to the camera guys, I was feeling for them because they were tired, I'll make you a brew. And I set the stove up inside the boat, and all my tackle was still in the boat, and this rod has just ripped off. And as I've picked into it, I can see I'm running out of line fast, and the life jacket's out of sight, and I'm like, get a life jacket! They're all flapping for their life jackets. I'm like screaming, I need my life jacket. And yeah, it was a crazy battle out there. Over the fish fought. It was one of the hardest fighting fish I've ever caught, and over real thick weed. The landing net got caught in the propeller. The landing net fell off the back of the boat and drifted away at one point. And the rod was taking on some stupid shapes in the wind, because the wind is blowing you away from the fish, and it was poor old cameraman, Mr. Cameraman in the boat. It was hardcore.
I felt for them because it's just being in the wrong place on the boat as well, isn't it? And having to, there was a lot of pressure on those guys doing that as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, yes. Sometimes I forget that I'm filming. Because I want it so badly. Like I say, sometimes we go to day ticket lakes and I can be a bit more relaxed, and it doesn't. But there was real genuine intensity there. When the rod's ripping off, and God knows what's on the end. Maybe an 80-pounder. I'm not thinking about how am I going to get this to look the best on camera. I'm like, get in a fucking boat, It's like it's like you're flapping.
Looking at the start of that session as well. Did you bait with particles to start off with, and it would.
Yeah, we started with tigers because we're thinking about poisson, shat and crayfish and baiting with maize. It's quite early in the year, so I think we're sort of drawn to it by standard English tactics. Not wanting to overly feed with boilies, but in that region of France, it's already been hot. You're fishing for reservoir pigs. That we should have been straight out with the 30 millers or the 26 millers or whatever.
But would that be a standard approach for you on a water like that, to go in with particle to start off with?
Yeah, when we're pre-baiting, we baited because we couldn't see, we didn't find any fish. We couldn't find fish, so we decided to mass bait or bait quite heavily with particles so we could check them and stuff. But once we started seeing fish, we didn't bother with the particles. We ended up catching. I always say to Dan, we always end up reverting to type. We're pop-up slingers. We sling pop-ups at jumping carp, and that's what we ended up doing, and that was a successful tactic.
It was just about locating fish, really, wasn't it? That was obviously is always the key. But once you actually found fish, you didn't necessarily find that you needed to put loads of bait into just to keep them.
No, or find spots.
Yeah.
When you're dropping rigs from the boat, you're always looking for clear spots and dropping them on the perfect spot, and in the end we're just slinging pop-ups with the bead pushed up the leg core and fishing for drops and spreading a few boilies in the area, which is comfortable, easy fishing.
Does that surprise you a little bit that you can actually get away with a little bit more, and just be able to drop rigs over, the bottom, lake bottoms that you wouldn't necessarily associate with getting bites over?
Yeah, it's quite surprising. You think you need to do it absolutely perfect all the time. You think it's got to be laid out the most perfect trap. But on a big lake like that, not even on a big lake like that, on all lakes, most of the time, the most important thing is to have a bait under a fish. And yeah. What
was morale like at the end of the shoot then?
I think it was good at the end.
Was it?
Yeah, because when you take on a challenge like that, a 900 acre lake, unknown stock, thousands of pounds of wages and travel, involved. There's the pressure. Obviously, the more pressure on Dan. He's driving a ship and I'm just tagging along. But I like to, pay my way. I like to chip in with fish, you know, and as soon as I'm catching, and I feel like I can.
I bet. Well, we saw that during the show a bit as well. You did take it easy a few times, didn't you? On there,
yeah, a little lay down here and there,
yeah. No, it was good. Is that lake? I mean, are there a lot of lakes in France like that are just not getting fished for whatever reasons?
I don't know. People seem to think because I've been doing a bit of European fishing that I'm a bit of a knowledgeable guy on it, and because I go to the same places and I'm not a very good integrator. Like I don't sort of mix very easily, and I don't like to ask questions because I don't like to be sort of pumped for information. So yeah, I don't know. I think there is. I think there's loads of lakes in France with unknown God knows what in it, rivers, canals, monster reservoirs where you could just find yourself in heaven, big carp, more than you could ever imagine in your wildest dreams, and just not being fished for. It's just the hardest thing about carp fishing is other people in the way and fish becoming harder to catch from angling pressure. And I'm sure there's little patches of paradise all over France.
Yeah, you were casting from the bank a lot as well. There were a few things I noticed on there. You were casting from the bank, and you're still using quite small hooks as well. And
so 6.
Yeah. I mean, that's quite a small hook for potentially really really big carp. Yeah. But you like sticking to the you don't necessarily like having to gear up super heavy.
Yeah, well, I didn't know it at the time, but those carp in those lakes, their mouths are like car tyres. Like when we have sort of heavy battles on some of the waters I fish in the UK, I noticed that when you get a deep hook hold, the hook can slip a little bit, and it'll move, and then you have a little cut in the mouth where the hook is sort of torn. Whereas these carp, if you saw that fight when I'm out in the boat and then we had that clip on when the rod's absolutely hooped, you're thinking that you're going to get the carp in and the hook's going to have moved, and that wasn't the case. Their lips like car tyres. It's just thick, rubbery, hard mouths, and in that situation, as long as the hook's strong, I'm using a wide gape X, plenty of purchase there.
Yeah. And lines as well then. What were you using braid, and did Danny change over to mono, didn't he?
We started with braid because we thought we were going to be doing a lot of towing, like towing out and dropping, and then we ended up doing casting a lot, just fishing 15. I think Dan was using £15 touchdown and I was using £15 carp line. It's just revert to type, back to pop-up slinging.
Yeah. Were you surprised? Casting from the bank, with all that water out there, it's like...
Yes, I was surprised. You think they're going to be out at mega range, but why would they be at mega range? They've got no reason to be out there, have they? They'll just be where they want to be on a lake. There's very little carp angling pressure on that lake. The only guys that I know that fish there generally sneak on and fish at night. They fish off the islands because it's the only safe way to not get all your gear nicked. They get dropped off at the lake, they fish off the islands and they break all the rules. But we just found them inbounds, day fishing. It's
perfect, isn't it? If you can cast from the bank, it's got to be perfect.
I spoke to some of my Dutch friends and they were like, casting, you English guys are crazy, because like they're all using those tiny little rods and used to dropping it down and that, but we're English and we revert to type.
Yeah. We got any pictures, Tobe? Is there a fish on there of Darrell with a...
Yeah, that's the one. That one's almost like a mirror image of the big one. There used to be an 80-pounder in there. I can't remember if it was called Neptune. I can't remember, but I might be getting that wrong. But the big one that was in there was very much a female version. That's a male, that fish, but a female version of that.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
cracking fish as well.
53 that was.
They were a nice stump of fish as well, weren't they, that you were catching out there?
None of them, not one of them had a hook mark in their mouth. It's like they've probably been caught, odd one here and there, but not some of those new ones that spawned on. I bet they have never been caught. Like we were there in May and we saw one other carp angler. So it's it's hard for me to say I'd recommend people to go there because it is dangerous. That's not me trying to put you off, but I could easily see someone fishing alone and a gang of desperate people coming up to you and robbing you because what you're using in equipment is life changing for them. That sort of amount of money would be life changing. So it was. I wouldn't recommend you go there.
It's like some of these waters, though, isn't it? It was, there's always these elements of these hurdles that you have to get over if you really, really want to fish a water like that.
Yeah, a lot of time it's rumour as well.
But that wasn't rumour.
No, that wasn't rumour. It's rough there. No,
did it remind you of Orient a little bit? Is there any similarities between fishing Orient and a lake like that?
Well, as in the fish are very catchable when you find them. That's one similarity. But Orient's quite those champagne lakes, where they draw the water off. They're not gravel pits. Like that is like a French. That one in Lyon is a French gravel pit, and the gravel pits there in that region are different. Do you know how like the stone and the gravel in the UK is really small? The stone and the gravel in the region of Lyon is really cobbly, like massive stones. And it is a proper French Lyon gravel pit, whereas Orient is just a dammed valley. It's muddy. The bottom's mud. It's not a gravel pit. So
does it make fishing easier, or
what?
Comparing the two between?
Well, a gravel pit is easier for me because I'm been brought up fishing gravel pits. I would say gravel pit is bread and butter for me. It's what I've been educated on from. Obviously not that type of gravel pit, but it's very similar. Whereas obviously Orient is, like I say, a flooded field, and it's just muddy. It's a job to know what a spot is, especially when you're fishing in open water. Like, what's any different to anything else, So, yeah, obviously there's loads of features in that lake that you would be drawn to, but we caught them fishing in overweed with effectively chod rigs.
Yeah, I know. After all that. You're thinking about people that, starting carp fishing for the first time, because we both sort of grew up fishing on gravel pits. I mean, I think that's probably a better education to start on a gravel pit. But if you were talking to people about starting carp fishing for the first time, would you always say ideally, start on a gravel pit to learn?
Well, no, I don't know. It's
learning spots.
Yeah, when I'm saying about a gravel pit, so describe the differences. A gravel pit that hasn't got loads of overhanging trees, for example, they're going to be, the fish will be found around the weed beds, on the shallow spots, in the bars, or out by islands. But if you're used to fishing like estate lakes and park lakes, you have lily pads and reed beds, and stuff that you fish up to, and like how often do you fish to an overhanging tree or up to some pads and stuff? That's why I was saying that Welly it doesn't feel like a gravel pit.
Yeah.
It's like the fish aren't out in the lake a lot. They're under the trees quite a bit. So yeah, I think fishing, when you start fishing, you don't want to be having weed as your weed is a brain damage until you get your head around it.
And then it's a friend, isn't it? But it just takes a bit of getting used to.
So I would say if you're just getting into it, you avoid the weedy lakes to start with, and get your casting and your rigs on point. And once you've got your casting and your rigs on point and your location, then you're going to have to get your spot finding on point, and that once you're efficient in the other factors, then you can sort of add other things to your game.
But when you've got all that and you've learned all that, I mean, obviously moving on to a silty lake or a clay bottom lake, it does become easier to a certain degree.
Yeah, if you're fishing a lake that's got a bald bottom, as in like no presentation issues, and you can just fire a rig anywhere, then anyone can catch one, can't they? But in a really weedy sort of situation, you could fire your rig out, and if you didn't know what you were doing, not be fishing. I know loads of people that won't fish weedy lakes because it's just fries their brain.
Yeah. Pecky's Buzz, Pecky's big carp buzz, which has been out for a few months now, hasn't it? That's going okay, and there's a slightly different. We did talk about that in the last podcast. There were 3 programs out, weren't there?
Yeah.
2 in Germany and 1 in France.
Yeah, so there was a couple of failed shoots as well. We went to Lake Bolsena and didn't pull it out of the bag, and went to a syndicate lake in Belgium and caught a 16-pounder. So a couple of failed shoots. It was originally supposed to be a 4-part series, and hindsight's a wonderful thing. I spread myself a little bit thin. I was thinking about my personal life rather than the end goal. I was thinking that it'd be good to be home at weekends, so that I wasn't missing extra weekends away from home. I'm thinking I can get these shoots done in 5 days. But when you go into proper lakes, proper venues that aren't guaranteed for just 5 days, you're not giving yourself enough time to make mistakes, and I've come up against difficult situations and failed, and that's carp fishing. But so the first part of the 3 series was filmed on the German River, and it was laid on a plate for me. It wasn't good angling on my part. I've got some really good contacts in Germany, and they said that it's quite difficult to get permission to fish on club lakes, but they've got a few public sort of waters and rivers. And they said there's a river in the north of Germany, quite well stocked with carp, really old fish, like really cool looking ones. And they said you must let us pre-bait for you. And I'm like, they're telling me it's 80 kilometres between locks. I'm thinking that's a long old bit of river. So we sent them over 30 key of bait, and they put some bait in some stretches that they have done well from before. Just turned up to absolute heaven. Like the German River was like was probably the most enjoyable session for me.
Was it?
Yeah, it was. It wasn't hard work. Do you know what I mean? Casting 11 wraps across a beautiful, idyllic river in lush. It was May, and the fields are like the greenest green you've ever seen, just rolling away in the distance. Not another carp angler for tens of miles, let alone miles, and just baiting up with a catapult, just like 20 minutes, like how carp fishing used to be, and just catching to order. It was, and I think it comes across in the video. Just it was fun. We had fun. It wasn't I saw some comments on sort of YouTube going, "Like to see you do that without pre-baiting." And we do that on loads of the shows, like 99 times out of 100 we're filming without pre-baiting. And I said in the video that the guys are pre-bait, but still people they're waiting to shoot you down. They're trying to shoot you down. But the buzz is about demonstrating enjoying fishing on nice venues, and
you got the German party boat go past as well, just to sort of
and we had a great time. People looking after the food, the camera guys won't have to move, swim with me every 5 minutes. It was just one of those sessions where it was easy. We had fails, but I had an easy shoot, caught half a dozen 30s up to 40 pound, caught a rake of small ones, and just had a lovely time.
There's a picture from the river up there as well.
Yeah, that's the biggest one, 41 pounds I think it was. And that sort of river that you can see that I'm in, that isn't what we were fishing. That's like a cow trough off the side of the river.
You had oil tankers going past you, didn't you, on this
but yeah, we had a lovely time there on the German River, and looking at the views on YouTube, that video has done the best views, had the most views.
Do you know what, that surprises me a little bit, because the third one, which has done the lowest amount of views, that was a venue that you filmed Master Carp 4 on, wasn't it? That for me, I really, really enjoyed that one, and there was some lovely carp caught on there as well.
I think for people in the industry, or the carpy gang, then the third one will be their favourite, because the carp are absolutely...
Have you got some pictures of those?
They're
ones,
insane.
They are. They're mental. They could have came out.
That's my favourite lake of the shoot. Although that was the easiest, most fun shoot. Oschlager See in northern Germany was my favourite lake to fish. I like the lake. Look at that.
It's just mental, isn't it?
I had so many messages from sort of friends and guys within the industry about that lake. After the shoot.
Looking at one now. What was that? A 40 pounder that we're looking at there?
I can't remember if it's 43 or 44. But Danny caught that one on the Masterclass 4.
Yeah.
I didn't fish particularly well on this session, if I'm honest. I made a bit of a corned beef hash of it. We got there and the fish were opposite where we started to fish, and because there wasn't room over on the other side of the lake for 4 guys, there wasn't room for my bivvy and 3 other camera guy bivvies. There just wasn't room, but the fish were over there, and I sort of knew they were there. And only on the last day of the session I was like, I'd caught that one already. I'd caught enough fish to make the film, but on the last, we'd gone up to the full moon, and I tried to bait and wait with the hope of dragging a big one out on the night of the full moon, and on the night of the full moon I didn't catch anything, and I could just hear them lumping in the distance. I was catching bream, and I just remember I was biting my lip in the bivvy, just thinking, you idiot.
Do you think they were always down there, or did they move across you? Or
there'd always been fish opposite, and they just got more and more and more dense over there, because once we moved over there, it just caught them straight away.
Didn't you?
But I could only take one cameraman with me because of that. There wasn't space over there. I didn't want to start hacking massive swims into the bank as such. But
would you have been able to have filmed over there for a period of time if you had to then?
Yeah, with one of the guys. There was room for two of us, but there wasn't room. There was four. I had two main film camera guys. One guy sort of taking the pictures and doing the cooking. So there was four. We needed room for four bivvies, and there wasn't room for four bivvies over there. And that.
Well, you were up to your waist in water there.
Yeah, I was held back from maybe achieving what was potentially there, you know.
Yeah.
But to come away from that session with two low 40s, 43 and a 44, I think it was 43 and a 44, and we had that sunrise on the day before.
Awesome! I saw you taking pictures of that. Oh my god!
It was.
Yeah.
That swim that I fished, it's the same one as I fished on Masterclass 4. It's like the lake's a bit of a kidney bean shape, and it's on the point of the inner side of that kidney bean shape, and I see that I woke up before the lads and I see the sun coming up and it was like steam coming flaking, everything was pink. I was like, you need to get up and hoover this up. You need to be capturing this, because it was probably the best dawn that I've ever experienced as a carp angler. And if you're the sort of guy that gets up and looks for fish in the morning every morning, and I've seen 1,000 dawns, that was probably the best that I've ever seen.
But those films, I mean, there was a nice variety between the films as well, wasn't there? I mean, as you being just the sole presenter, I mean, how do you feel, just presenting a program solely on your own? I know you've done a few Thinking Tackles in the past, but this has got your name on it. It's like your own TV series, isn't it?
Yeah. I like it, because I naturally find talking about technical difficult, because it's not my passion. My passion is hunting. And I love fishing, I live for it,
Yeah, we can see that, Darrell.
I love to hunt, and I'm in my element when I'm doing that, and I like as much as I like achieving the end goal. I like the opening when you know nothing. I'm quite that when it's all fresh and new. I like that, so that this format really, really suits me. So I'm not pushing products. I'm not pushing technical. I'm just showing you how much I love fishing and doing it on new venues, The French one, for example, I was really worried about how that would be received, because I went there on a bit of a whim. I spoke to Frank Warwick, and like I said, I don't know much about loads of European venues, and he said, talk to this guy, and he spoke to his friend, and he said that I should try this lake, and he sent me half a dozen pictures of more English looking carp than what you'd expect in France. They're in the north of France, so they're not monsters, but they were in what you would say an idyllic lily pad covered lake, and there was half a dozen fish to 60 pounds, and I thought, that's a bit of me. And got there, and just, it was like height of summer, and the bream were everywhere, spawning in the edges, and there was loads of 10-pound cricket back commons everywhere, and I was like, I've dragged a film crew to France to catch 10-pound commons, and then the first bite is a 42-pound common, heavily spawned out, probably an upper 40 or even a 50 at the right time, and it was like a megalodon, and exactly like what we'd gone there for. But in 5 days of running around like a blue-ass fly, never saw hide nor hair of another carp like that, and I was really nervous of how it'd be received. But the guys, I've looked at the comments on YouTube and that, and I found people really liked it, because it was just sticking a pin on the lake and just going and trying it out.
That's what it was like.
Yeah.
And even while you were fishing there, you were trying out different venues around there as well, just in case.
I'd hate to know how many miles I drove in that session. I was wasting valuable fishing time, but I just couldn't see the point of continuing catching 10-pound commons. I wanted to change it up. I'd rather sit and catch nothing, know that there's big ones there, than just plough through 10-pounders.
But it's good to see that reality, though, that Darrell Peck can go out to these lakes and, not necessarily, completely clean up on the water either, catch
I think
huge
that
carp.
we always carve up, and let's be honest, we do generally carve up, because we go with good homework, with good time. When me and Danny go and film these Thinking Tackles, it's like 2 weeks, or a masterclass, we go for a week. There's two of us working together to find the fish. But going for 5 days on your own with no information, you're going to hit some roadblocks, you know, and in that situation I'm having a bit of a panic up because it's on me. I picked that lake.
Do you have input with everywhere, or those 3 venues? That was your choice.
Yeah, the buzz. Yeah, obviously the German River, the guys laid on for us, like we said. Oschlager came about after a failed shoot. We'd already been to Bolsena and failed. We'd already been to Belgium and failed.
What does it feel like when you failed on a shoot like
badly?
that?
Because it's Danny's money, and although he's my boss, he's my friend, and it's like I've gone out there and I've let the team. I feel like I've let the team down, you know. And it's not. We're not talking hundreds. There's thousands of pounds on the line, you know. And it's like it comes down. I felt the pressure a bit, you know. And then when Oschlager came up as an option, I was like, I fancy my chances there. I know the lake a little bit, you know, because the previous series of the Buzz, there was 2 episodes. One was at Bayswater, one was at the Kempish Canal in Belgium. They were venues that I'd fished before, and the second series of the Buzz got more cameramen, more investment, but I ended up going to venues that I knew nothing about, and I come up against some, like that Lake Bolsena in Italy, for example. It's like, it's bigger than Orient, it's bigger than Shantycock, you can see it from space. And I've never fished a volcanic lake before. I've never fished one, so I've got no experience about the depths of where the fish want to be. And I've rolled up to this lake that's probably the size of Essex and caught a 14-pound common in 5 days. And I was in a pre-booked swim and I just didn't see any fish topping. I couldn't move, and I camped for 5 days in 35 degrees. I ate some lovely food, but I come away and I was disappointed, you know, because the Buzz is the first project where I've been sort of the main presenter or sole presenter, and I want it to be successsul.
So would that put you off in the future about trying unknown waters, or is that's part of it though, isn't it?
It's part of it, but we aimed for 4 films last year, 4 films at 5 days, and this year we're probably, depending on travel, going to look at doing 3 films for 8 days. So you've got the travel day, you know, on the opening day to get there. So you've got a full week. I think really when you're tackling these, there's some of my serious waters, you know, you can't expect to bowl up for 5 days, know nothing, and clean up, carve up. You know, you've got to be real. You know, it's sometimes it isn't going to go to plan, and I'd rather go for longer. I might do a little bit more research this time. Well, we've decided. Well, we've talked about doing maybe doing Cassian, which, you know, that's no mean feat, going there doing the days at Cassian, and only having 8 days. 8 days isn't a long time.
What month are you talking about going there?
Summertime, it'll be June, July, or August. We talked about going to Bled.
Right.
Obviously, I know people have been to Bled before, but it's going to. I don't want to fake it, you know. I don't want to be sitting on a dating lake trying to make it sound like I'm excited, you know. Cassian is one of the most iconic lakes. I know they filmed there for Monster Carp. I've never been there, so
can't get enough of Cassian.
The goal for me to go for the Buzz would be to catch a carp.
It's got to be.
Yeah, I go to Cassian and catch a carp on film, and then go to Bled, you know, that castle in the background, get that shot, and then we're talking possibly for the third one being on a UK, so sort of turning a hand to the UK scene. Originally we wanted to film at Wellington, but there's no filming. No, they don't want people.
That would have been good.
Yeah, it would have been good, because it's it's fishing that I would do in my own time, you know. So that's the Buzz is sort of like that, filming fishing that I would do in my own time.
I mean, Monster Carp coming back to the UK, they filmed there last week, wasn't it? And I think it's good to bring fishing back home.
Yeah.
You get used to seeing all these continental waters. As soon as you come back to England, there's nothing like.
The trouble is, in England, it's hard to find lots of really special lakes, you know, where you can realistically catch in short succession, you know, because when you've got all these cameramen and that on, it's got to happen in that short time frame, and that's why we go abroad, because there's more bigger fish abroad, and it's easier, less pressure, you know, and you got more chance of catching, you know. But like on a busy English circuit water, turning up in a short stay and trying to catch that trophy fish that makes a film have its wow, you know. A spooner, so I don't want to give the exact what he's caught away in Monster Carp, but that fish that was on social media the other day, you know, that, you know, like, the people would fish for years to catch that.
Had a good result there.
He's on an absolute roll, isn't he? He caught the biggest fish in Cassian, and he caught that absolute worldie. You Yeah, he's on a roll, the old boy.
But I think it is capturing the real reality of fishing and the rawness of it. And for me, they're the films that I enjoy watching the most, you know, where it really does feel like reality and going through that struggle a little bit with it. So coming out potentially, I think, on June 2021st, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like I say, you're going to carry on filming, hopefully summertime.
Yeah, I haven't spoke to the guys in marketing about the buzz, but I'm guessing we've got the weeks blocked out in the calendar, and if travel restrictions are lifted, then we'll probably go ahead with what we've got planned, like Cassie and Bled and a UK venue.
And personal stuff, Welly, when you get the chance.
Yeah, I've decided that I need to show Welly a bit more respect.
Yeah.
You know, like I was one of those people that thought it was a bit of a run sport, or in the background, it's easy to catch 50s out of there. It warrants a bit of respect, and I'm going to show it some.
Yeah. Well, best of luck with it anyway. Thanks for coming in, Darrell.
Thank you.
Okay.
The Thinking Tackle Podcast.